Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining me. We begin tonight with the fight to stop the Dresden landfill project, with local leaders and the province at odds over what's best for the region. A Conservative MPP is speaking out against the proposed Dresden landfill, all while the Premier is trying to fast-track the process. Lambton Kent Middlesex MPP Steve Pinsonneau says he has been silent for too long.
I do not support this landfill. I've personally spoke to the Premier, I personally spoke to the ministers, I've told them of the concerns of this landfill, and I told them how I'm opposed to it. The reality is I'm one of 80 votes, and no matter how I vote, it's not going to change the outcome.
There's been community pushback against this for more than a year, with great concerns around environmental impact. The plans are to expand a dormant waste disposal site a little more than 1 kilometer from the edge of town. Approval is in the hands of the province.
People are angry, and quite frankly, so am I. As a municipal councillor, I openly and publicly spoke against this landfill. As a candidate for Lambton Kent Middlesex, I said I would work to get an environmental assessment in place, and I did that. As you can understand, I'm very frustrated.
Last year, the province did promise that there would be an environmental assessment. But now the newly proposed Bill 5 is changing everything. It's designed to speed up infrastructure development. And if it passes, the province would exempt the landfill from an assessment.
And everything's kind of fallen apart after that. So we're just trying to do what we can to stop it from happening.
This Chatham-Kent councillor says she does appreciate that MPP Pinsonneau is now addressing the concerns around this and hopes he takes meaningful action.
He has indicated that his vote is not going to matter. So I just think, yes, it's too little too late, because he's basically saying he can't do anything, but he can. He can do something. He can show solidarity by standing with the people of Dresden and Lambton Kent Middlesex.
She did point out that by speaking out, Pinsonneau does run the risk of being ejected from caucus.
I believe the people of Lambton Kent Middlesex, the people of Dresden, will support him if he does choose to go against the grain and vote no on Bill 5. So I encourage Steve to do that.
The Premier has said that the landfill site is needed to address capacity issues and to reduce our reliance on the United States for garbage disposal. I did reach out to the Premier's office, the Ministry of Education, and to MPP Steve Pinsonneau for comment on this, but I did not hear back. I did, however, hear back from York One. They own the landfill site, and they said that it would be used for non-hazardous construction and demolition materials, not your usual municipal waste, and that it would still undergo a number of environmental approvals. Now, on Thursday, there will be a Queen's Park Standing Committee meeting addressing Bill 5, and on the agenda is Chatham-Kent Mayor Darren Caniff. He's expected to address the issue. After a tragic drowning over the long weekend, advocates are trying to educate the public on how to stay safe on the water. CBC spoke with a volunteer with Guardian Marine Rescue for more on that.
The number one thing that we can focus on is public education, making sure people are aware of the dangers of being on the water, the hazards that water can create, and being able to make the informed decision of, okay, do I want to swim in this area? Okay, maybe there's other people swimming here, but is it the right spot for me? If you do get into trouble, say you fall off a boat or you're out swimming and all of a sudden the boat is drifting away, don't try and catch up with it, okay? Try and get on your back. Preferably you'll have a PFD that's with you. Not always going to happen, but you want to try and conserve as much energy as you can and focus on staying above the water. In Detroit River, there's a lot of current. If you do get caught in that current and it's pulling you down the water, don't try and fight the current, don't try and swim away. Get on your back, try and stay above the water and go with the current down the water until it lessens enough that you can, okay, now I can either signal for help or somebody's going to come save me, or okay, I'm in calm water now, I still have enough energy, I can swim over. And with that said too, when you're going out on your boat or kayak, whatever it is, if you are selecting a PFD or a life jacket, make sure that it's not something that's super dark, something that's going to blend in the water. I understand this one's black. When it opens up, it's bright yellow. It's super easy to see, and that's going to be very important from a search and rescue perspective, that we can see you and we can find you from a distance. younger individuals that want to go swimming, you want to get together, you want to go with your friends, there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to make sure that where you're going is safe. Pay attention to what's going on around you. If you're having to, say, go through somebody's backyard or underneath a bunch of signs that say, hey, I shouldn't be swimming here, maybe we shouldn't be swimming here. And then part of that too is going to fall back on the parents to make sure that the kids understand the hazards that are going on. Swimming in the lake, swimming in the river isn't like swimming in a swimming pool. There's a lot more hazards that go along with it, and it's something that kids might not be aware of. If you haven't been around the water for a whole lot, it can change very quickly, and that's something that can become very dangerous.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for our first look at weather on really what's shaping up to be a very gloomy week, Colette, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a few things to contend with. Wet weather, cool temperatures, not the nicest breeze, all these things in there. Winds are at 12 degrees, but Toronto cool too, Kapuskasing, all the way back into Saskatchewan and Alberta. You'll notice Winnipeg, it's just to the north of this system, and actually temperatures are okay there, but the system is having an influence all the way back to the western prairies. There's some of those embedded thunderstorms to the south of us, but still rotating in here are these bands of showers. So wet weather continues tonight, 9 degrees for the low. Tomorrow afternoon, just 13. That's about the best that we could do. Some fog in there at times as well, reducing visibility. We will get through this, and I'll tell you when things change when I come back.
Yes, we will. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Up next, the sexual assault trial of 5 former Hockey Canada World Junior players continues in London, Ontario. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is outside the courthouse with more.
Another twist in the trial of the World Junior hockey players accused of sexual assault in London, Ontario. Today's proceedings were dominated by arguments over a witness's memory. Brett Howden, a former teammate of the accused who was in the hotel room where the alleged sexual assaults happened in 2018, began testifying on Tuesday. Throughout that testimony, his answer to many questions from Crown lawyer Megan Cunningham was that he couldn't remember certain details. She would direct him to look at statements he'd made to police and to a lawyer hired by Hockey Canada to help refresh his memory. After reading the statement to himself, not out loud in open court, he'd say he still couldn't remember the details. This prompted the Crown to file an application seeking permission to cross-examine her own witness. Howden was called by the Crown, not by the defense, in an attempt to be able to highlight what the Crown calls inconsistencies between his testimony yesterday and past statements he's given to investigators.
Generally speaking, the party that calls a witness shouldn't be trying to impeach the credibility of that witness, and they are not allowed to cross-examine their own witness absent an application being granted of this nature. So this is a somewhat unusual circumstance, but again, it is something that is contemplated by our judicial system, and there is a precedent for it. It does happen.
In court today, the Crown argued that Howden's memory lapses are not sincere, while the defense lawyers urged Judge Maria Carosia to reject the application. Late afternoon, the judge issued a ruling. She said she can't find that Howden was feigning lack of memory or being insincere, but she did find some inconsistencies, and so the application can proceed for certain topics. Court ended for the day with the lawyers all agreeing to come up with a path forward tomorrow morning. Howden did not resume testifying. Howden is testifying by video link from Las Vegas, where he plays hockey. He's not accused of any wrongdoing. He's been testifying about what he witnessed the night of the alleged sexual assaults. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Canada Post has rejected an offer from the Postal Workers Union to delay a potential strike by 2 weeks. The union had asked for the pause to consider the latest proposals from the corporation. It comes just days after Canada Post said it received a strike notice. Tens of thousands of postal employees could hit the picket lines Friday. It will be the second strike in less than 6 months. Weekend work remains the sticking point in negotiations. Canada Post wants to hire part-time staff for Saturdays and Sundays to address rising parcel demand. The union representing postal workers is proposing a shift in schedules for full-time employees to include some weekend work. And thousands of workers at Ontario's Workplace Safety and Insurance Board are also preparing to strike. The union representing workers says picket lines are being set up in nearly a dozen cities across the province, including in Windsor tomorrow. The union says that it is trying to get the WSIB to respond to key issues around workload, wages, and union representation. WSIB did respond this afternoon, saying that it is disappointed that the union has walked away from the bargaining table and that the union has yet to respond to its latest offer, which includes enhanced benefits and a wage increase above inflation in 2025. And there is an ongoing push to get more young people and young girls in particular interested in skilled trades. As Dawson Chen reports, dozens of them gathered for a special event today to try and get them excited about just that.
Windsor's St. Clair College hosted crowds of teenage girls today, all of them interested in learning a trade. The annual Jill of All Trades event is meant to introduce female high school students to the world of skilled trades workers. Students like 18-year-old Abby Collins are envisioning career paths that don't involve university.
I always knew I wanted to do something working with my hands. I knew I couldn't work in an office my whole life. I think one of the main things right now is having job stability when you get out of high school. And that's kind of one of the reasons I chose the skilled trades.
Those enrolled in the event received hands-on experience with tasks and equipment related to welding, electrical, HVAC, power line work, and more. It's the second year for the event. The 2024 edition had 60 participants. This year had 100. Lido Zuccato, the college's chair of skilled trades and apprenticeships, expects that number will continue to grow.
I think the biggest challenge with the girls in trades is to take the first step into trying something to build their confidence. A lot of the trades are male-dominated, right? So I think they're very intimidated, right? You've got to take that first step and give it a try, and this event gives them that opportunity.
According to the college, only 5% of people currently working in skilled trades in Canada are women. Meanwhile, StatsCan estimates 700,000 skilled trades workers are expected to retire between 2019 and 2028, making for an historic labor shortage. At the same time, the agency's analysis shows young Canadians are facing their toughest job market in decades. All that information isn't lost on Juliet Lusaw and Cassidy Young, who both believe carpentry is the best bet for their futures.
I am working. I did a 4-credit co-op with Barrison Construction, so I'm in carpentry and I do that. And I'm also working during the summer, and then I start my apprenticeship after my 1 year at St. Clair.
But Young isn't naive about what it's like for women in skilled trades. She's already spent time on job sites.
I get told every day that hairstyling is a trade. Why don't I go into that? But I think that the biggest part is seeing us as humans and not just as women going into the trades, and realizing that we're here to work and we're here to work hard just like the men are.
Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Let's turn now to a good deed that is not going unnoticed on the other side of the border. A resident in Spring Lake, Michigan, and her son rushed to help out a 93-year-old neighbor during a recent tornado alert. The two first met during a storm 5 years ago, and since this most recent incident, Riley McKillen-Dean and her neighbor Mary have joked about getting walkie-talkies so that they can react at a moment's notice the next time there is an emergency.
It was one of those things where I was like, if I panic, she's gonna panic. So we're just gonna take our time. We're just hanging out, nothing, watching it start thundering and lightning a little bit. And then the alert went off and it said that we were under a tornado warning. So my neighbor, who is just the best woman in the entire world, she lives by herself. She's a widow. As I go knock on her door and she opens it, the sirens start blaring. And I was like, I think you should come over. She's 93. It's not like we were sprinting across to get there. My son was with us and he held the door open, and we just took our time, and sirens blaring, lots of lightning, lots of thunder. She's like my bestie. So we do everything together, and I didn't even really think twice. I was like, we're going to get her and we're bringing her home.
It's a great story. U.S.-bound traffic through the tunnel saw a 3% dip over the long weekend as compared to last year. The CEO of the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel says that's higher than most weekends, but travel in general remains down.
Well, that had to do with a couple of big events in the United States, specifically the Post Malone and the Jelly Roll concert on Sunday. So, again, when I talk about only being down a couple of percentage points during the week and then about 15 percentage points on the weekend, That's number of vehicles. Number of passengers or people, that's down well over 20% week to week for just about every week for the last 2 months.
He says there was also only a minor dip over the Easter long weekend, which suggests people are still willing to cross over for special occasions. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Top financial officials from G7 countries are in Banff, Alberta for a 3-day summit. They're in closed-door meetings to discuss the global economy, artificial intelligence, and the war in Ukraine. CBC's Anis Haidari is there with the latest.
Canada's finance minister is meeting his counterparts from the other G7 nations as finance ministers and central bankers from those nations come here to the Rocky Mountains. It's day 2 of their meetings here in Banff, and the formal agenda includes issues ranging from artificial intelligence impact on the economy to fighting financial crime to global trade stability. But of course, along with the many sessions that will look at global trade, broadly speaking, they will be talking about tariffs, even though those are not officially on the agenda. The U.S. is represented here. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is attending, and that's something past finance ministers say is a major plus for Canada.
I think it's a good thing that the Treasury Secretary is there, as well as the Chairman of the Federal Reserve. These are two of the people that we need to rely upon in Washington.
And in addition to the official agenda, expect many one-on-one meetings between Canadian officials and their counterparts from other countries, including the United States. Canada's finance minister is relatively new to his role, having only taken it on a few months ago. He is newer in that role than many of his counterparts here. In some cases, he'll be meeting some of them for the first time. Anis Haidari, CBC News, Banff.
South Africans had hoped a presidential visit to the United States would offer a reset in relations and a path to a trade deal. Instead, the delegation was met with claims from President Donald Trump that the country is persecuting white minority farmers. Aaron Collins with more on an extraordinary Oval Office meeting.
The meeting started out well. Donald Trump greeted South Africa's president warmly. Inside the Oval Office, Cyril Ramaphosa played his part too, complimenting Trump, bringing some of the American president's favorite golfers along as well.
To you, you said, yes, come along and bring Gary Player, bring Eddie Els and Retief Goosen. I've brought the two of them.
Ramaphosa looking to focus on trade.
We would like to recalibrate those relations between our two countries.
Well, that reset after dozens of white South Africans arrived in the U.S. as refugees, the U.S. paying for their flight, Trump claiming they were persecuted in South Africa. Allegations the U.S. president repeated in this meeting when pressed by reporters.
How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away, and in many cases those people are being executed.
But Trump had a plan to make his point.
People are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one.
Playing a video he had at the ready to back up his claims.
White South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws.
Showing Ramaphosa news clippings too. South Africa's agriculture minister politely pushing back.
It affects all farmers in South Africa, particularly stock theft has a disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers.
But in this meeting, Trump seemed most interested in hearing from the pro golfers in the room.
It is difficult, but the guys live a great life despite everything going on.
The meeting ending much as it began, more politely but with little resolved between the two countries.
You don't want to leave.
Well, after this extraordinary hour-long meeting, there are some big questions that remain unanswered about the state of relations between the U.S. and South Africa, including whether President Trump will take part in G20 meetings set to be held in South Africa in November. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Washington.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza was among the issues that Pope Leo addressed in his first ever general audience at the Vatican on Wednesday. The Pope appealed for Israel to allow aid to enter Gaza, calling the situation worrying and saddening. Leo also used his address to honor his predecessor, Pope Francis, before taking a drive around St. Peter's Square in the Pope-mobile. The Vatican says over 40,000 people were in attendance for the audience. The general audience is a weekly appointment every Wednesday that popes have kept for decades, allowing for ordinary faithful to have face-to-face encounters with the pontiff. When we come back, Claude Kennedy will join us once again for your local weather. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more on weather. Colette, we know that we have good stuff waiting for us coming this weekend, but between now and then, what do we need to know?
Well, I guess just that we have to be somewhat patient for that good stuff that you're talking about coming our way. And in the meantime, you know, if you put some of the warmer layers away, you may kind of need them for just a couple of days here to help get through when we're talking about temperatures that are running a good 10 degrees below seasonal for this time of the year. We sit at 11, Chatham-Kent at 12, Sarnia at 11, some 10s there, London and Kitchener. The winds are out of the north to northeast, and anywhere where you're closer to a lake or lakeshore, yeah, you get that kind of cooler breeze and feel to this. We have had some breaks, which has been nice in the rainfall, but in terms of getting those clouds to break up, that's going to be harder to do over the next 24 to 48 hours. Actually, by the time we get to Friday, we'll start to see some of these clouds eroding. But as I was showing earlier in the show just how far-reaching this is, because I was talking about the temperatures, how it's milder north of the system into Manitoba, but it's cool all the way back towards the western prairies. And yes, this is all associated with the same system. The one having the impact on us goes all the way towards the eastern seaboard. So that low is really elongated, or its effects, and then we keep getting that counterclockwise spin, and it is another pattern where it's blocked. So nothing is pushing it along. We've had several of these this spring. So as we move forward in time, let's show you how this plays out then. Some lighter stuff. Really, the heavier rains over the next few days are going to be a bit further east and over towards the Niagara region and a bit north from there towards the GTA. But we're still going to get another 5 to maybe 10 millimeters out of this. If you are going to be doing any traveling in the province, know that you are going to get into even some of the heavier rains into Friday. But this is what I mean. Friday, we're dealing more with clouds, probably still a few light showers, but we may even get some of those clouds breaking up at times. So no longer very impressive in terms of what's still to come, although the model's not totally in agreement, but really wanting to push those heavier amounts there a little bit further east from us, where it is up there of those 30 to 40, 50 millimeters from this system. Overnight tonight, that low 9 degrees, and then tomorrow 13. Yes, some fog from time to time, so watch for some reduced visibility. 14 on Friday. Oh my, there it is, the weekend. Doesn't that look nice?
Love to see it. Thank you so much, Colette, and thanks to you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.